was Andy's. Fred, I don't know who Fred's was. I don't know. Mine was down in Freeman, so I was old enough to, to survive without going to a sponsor.
Was your grandfather still living?
No, he died in the fall before my mother died. In 1928, he died.
Did Grandma own the farm or anything like that? Could she have kept all you?
She had a house right next to the butcher shop.
Mm-hmm.
That's where
But she couldn't have taken all of you kids. It would have been too hard.
No, she couldn't. We stayed there a little while. People, when she had no income or anything like that. In fact, she had a boarder, that would pay her board. She did washing for people. What else was I going to say? Cousins of mine that lived out of town would come there during the school semester and stay with her, and then on the weekend go home.
And this was in Yale?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right in Yale. Mm-hmm.
The big metropolis. Is this 200 people or something?
Yeah, about like that.
Yeah, 150.
Yeah.
She died right after I was born, right? Your grandma?
Yes, right, 1940.
Uh-huh. So then you and Fred went back to Milwaukee and...
Uncle Andy came here, was coming here.
Okay. Uncle Andy, we know quite a few of the nieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Waltzes.
Mm-hmm.
And he came, and at that time they had 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up that he had 8 later. I had 8 in all.
7 girls.
7 girls and 1 boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had 6 girls, then he had a boy. And then they tried again. Didn't try, I mean, it just came naturally. And then they had another girl.
You liked Uncle Andy and Aunt Susie?
Uncle Andy was my survivor. He was very good to me.
And Aunt Susie too?
Well, Aunt Susie, she just was a quiet person, she never showed much affection. She never made you feel unwelcome, but, she had a house full of kids. And there wasn't hardly any food, but Uncle Andy, yeah, come on, everybody. Uncle Andy was happy.
Like your dad would have been.
I think so, yeah. Everybody was welcome to Uncle Andy's house.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever came from out in South Dakota parked at Uncle Andy's house.
Okay, so did you stay with them for a while?
Stayed there, and then they had a fire, and the house was a shell.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had Doreen then already too.
Oh, well, why don't we wait until when you got back to Milwaukee, you stayed with Aunt and Uncle Andy.
Yes.
And then did you work?
Yes, I worked.
Who did you work for?
I worked for Eddie Parks.
Uh-huh. At that time already? When did you work for Heikens?
I did go back to Heikens. And
Did you stay in their house?
Yes, I did housework.
Okay. Explain
and
that.
It was bad times then too. But, and Christine, that was Aunt Susie's sister, we used to double date.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were dating these brothers, and of course I became pregnant. And then
Who was the father?
Peter Dillman.
Okay.
And he,
You were just a kid at this time.
18. Yeah. And then finally Mrs. Heiken found out about it, She sensed that something was going on, and what's going on, and this and that. And so at that time he was influenced by his parents in a way. They must have known about it. And he didn't come around. So... And
you were scared?
I was scared. Well, I was dumb. Didn't know what to do.
You loved him?
Yes, I think I did. Yes, and I still feel that he was used by his brother and his father and stuff. Did I ever tell you that his father committed suicide right after we married?
No.
Yes, I think there was a heck of a lot of things that we didn't know, that I didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
That he was being his Peter's mother. She was a very good person, and maybe they just got on him and he couldn't take it, or for some reason he committed suicide after that.
But they wouldn't allow Peter to marry
They wouldn't, because they wanted the oldest one to get married first, and this and that. And so Uncle Andy Mrs. Hyken called Uncle Andy, and he came over. Well, then there was a big meeting at Hyken's house, and this and that. Well, they decided, well, let him get married. We went to Waukegan and everything. His father, his brother, and me, and Dylan. It was on a Saturday. We didn't have our birth certificates, and I guess that's a must. When they found out about it, they says, how old are you? What proof have you got? We haven't got any. Well, you have to come back, then you have to bring it, So I waited about 10 days or so, and then finally Uncle Andy said, what's going on here, and I said, well, I haven't heard anything. So then they said they changed their mind. So then Uncle Andy says, well, we're going to take this to court. So he brought false witnesses along, and to say that there was some other guy that was doing it too, which wasn't true, but he was told to say this here so that they'd have a case against me. Well, he did have to pay a small amount, And,
what was one of the other reasons they wanted? He did come back and want to marry you for what reason?
That was about a year and a half later.
No, even before that.
He asked me if I'd change Catholic. I says, no. I says, I wouldn't. How would I bring up the child? I says, not Catholic. I says, if that's the way the Catholics are, I says, I don't want that. I said, I don't believe in that. To lie like that. So
that dropped Peter.
That dropped him, yeah.
And then you had Doreen.
And then I had Doreen. Well, I had Doreen, and he was paying for her welfare, $300, I guess the settlement was. He tried to come around because this was the sister, Susie's sister, married his brother. And she'd come to visit Uncle Andy and them, and they tried to see Doreen, and I'd stay right in the bedroom there with her. I wouldn't bring her out. I thought, no way, He tried to come around, I think, because somebody else said that he was driving by. It wasn't his fault. I don't think it was him at all. I honestly believe that. Then what happened? Then I started to date Dad,
Okay, well, we'll go into that. Doreen is born. You pick out the name Doreen. She's a pretty little girl.
Uh-huh.
And you lived for a time with Wallmans.
Well, see, after the fire, I lived with my uncle. When the fire was, then Gertie was Doreen's sponsor, Fred and Gertie. So then she said, well, why don't you come and live with us? So that's how that happened, that we lived there with them.
Okay. Now there comes a fateful day in January, was it?
Yes, January.
Okay, at this time you were working for
this little diner, hamburger stand.
On 16th and Valete.
Valete, right. And this was the 9th of January that Dad's good friend got married, Wally Murgett. And the hall that they had the reception in was about a block or two from where I worked. And so these guys all came over to the restaurant there, and they made a hullabaloo there, They even
tore the place apart. Were they all a little
tipsy,
yeah.
A little tipsy from the wedding and that. But some way he must have remembered me. I don't know how he did it. But see, he was friends with Gertie's. I don't know how it was. He was friends with Theriald, and Theriald used to come there, a little bit. And then he'd come there, and I can remember one time he came.
Well, how did you feel? What did you think the first time you saw this guy?
He was good looking. He was very good looking, and he always he dressed up beautiful always. His hats and that, and polished shoes. That was the way with him, with the Niesls. Yes, curly hair. Yes, the only thing his teeth. Some of his teeth were missing here.
From
knocked out. Anyway, we started to date, and Oh, we were going together.